Hey, what's going on, everybody? My name is Dyrude, and I am back yet again by popular demand for the GatorLAN Fall 2018 pre-show. This time with two very special guests, Fat Booty and GeneralWally. Guys, how are you guys doing today?
Great, man. How's it going?
It's going, just living life, kind of doing things. So straight up, before we get going on this, just for everybody to kind of get a glimpse of what this is, if they didn't experience this last year, we're basically going to run through the entire bracket for the Fall 2018 Gatorland Tournament, break down all the individuals and teams that will be competing, and give some advice as far as how teams can probably run the gauntlet and figure out who can really become the Gatorland champion and earn bragging rights for a semester. Uh, Wally, you got anything to say about that?
Uh, we're gonna beat Josh's team. That's all I know.
Oh,
Okay.
Lord.
All
Damn.
right. So why don't we go ahead and we'll get started with this. The first matchup, we're going to be talking about the quarterfinals. It's going to be UF Team 1, or I guess there's rather UF Team taking on Left Cleat Gaming out of the prelims. UF Team features Rice or Die at the top lane, the FF15 machine in the jungle, General Wally playing mid lane, Safe and Gremmy playing the duo bot position. And for Left Cleat Gaming, we have You're Not Worthy is the top laner, Gator Freak 50 jungling, Molten Liquid the spicy mid laner, and in the bottom lane it is Clinical Autist and Austin Gator 3. Guys, where should we start with this one?
Well, I mean, looking at this team, it looks like it's gonna be, relatively one-sided. Obviously, this team, Left Click Gaming, has a good chance in the mid lane, right? So they can actually keep up with Wally. Their mid laner is at least Diamond, so he looks pretty solid. And he's got like a good champion pool, you know. It doesn't look like he's too easy to ban out. He plays Ori, which is always a good fallback, even if you do take away his Cassid and a Twisted Fate. But they do look pretty outmatched in every other lane. I think it's going to be really tough, and especially because Team One they have a lot of cohesiveness as a team. So even if this team manages to get out of the laning phase without too large of a deficit or even maybe a little bit of an advantage, it's going to be tough for them to actually turn that into something later in the game against such like a cohesive team, you know, such a solid team in terms of teamwork.
I mean, anything in any kind of game, whether it's sports or esports or anything, a one versus A is always something that's really difficult to always overcome, no matter who you are. But kind of more directed here towards Wally because I feel like this might actually kind of help them out. Gator Freak 50 is also a pretty solid jungler, just based on the ranks of everybody that's competing in this tournament. And Gator Freak 50 playing a lot of the new. I think he's playing a lot of the new. Lee Sin, Jax, a lot of playmaking junglers. What are the chances that maybe they can steal a game or two off of off of the UF team using the jungle mid synergy? Because Wally, I know that that's really important. I feel like you could probably shed some light on that.
Right. So what's happening is just looking at Molten Liquid's champion pool. As you're saying, he has the cast and he has the Twisted Fate. He has those champions that like to make plays around the map once they hit level 6. So if you can get an early game jungler like the Lee Sin, I haven't played a lot with the new, but he seems to have pretty decent ganks. And you want to use that mid jungle synergy to go and get your bot lane ahead because Safe and Jeremy, no flame, they're probably the best bot lane that's going to be at land. So you want to set them behind if possible.
I think that from the last LAN, because you guys all played together, with the exception of having a new jungler. So definitely, I think you guys actually played together for the last two lanes. You guys already do have, like we said, a lot of built up synergy and things like that. But that new jungler, is there some way that an early game could break down, and just having that aggressive playmaking jungler, can that affect your play style?
Well, yeah, because normally the way we like to play is we like to get safe, nice and fed. I play some control mage mid, and then we like to go for those late game team fights. If you're over aggressive in the early game, you can make plays happen. Because especially, as I said, if you have the Twisted Fate or cast in post 6, you can have that mid lane priority, and you can make the jungler who's, as we said, relatively new to the team, probably lacking communication that the rest of us have. You can make his life miserable.
Fat Booty, do you see any way we can possibly get any other lanes, maybe get a surprise win or something? It's like anything in their champion pools that maybe they should fall back on, or is it just something where play comfort and try not to feed?
I mean, their bot lane, their AD, I think like he looks like he likes to play some pretty aggressive picks, right? He likes his Draven, he likes his Varus. I mean, he plays Kalista, but there's no way anybody's gonna play Kalista nowadays. So I mean, maybe if they can somehow like manufacture their own lead. The thing is that I don't think anybody on any team in this tournament is such a good player that they can't be beat by somebody with a lower rank than them, just because everybody makes mistakes. And I think on the day of, it's just gonna come down to who's playing better. You know, like we look at these ranks and we think that we can gain a lot from it, but I think everybody's going to make enough mistakes to get punished and for other teams to take advantage of it. And it's just going to be who can reduce those mistakes to a minimum and show up in the best form on the day of.
I think that's pretty well put. Do you guys have any other reservations about either team, about this matchup specifically? Anything maybe as far as advice for either team going through the first game?
I mean, I would go ahead just to tell Team 1 to just play the way they do. You know, I don't think that they have to try anything crazy. I think they can just take the picks that they're comfortable with, and they can even kind of use game 1 as like a feel out game if they want, because I still see a possibility of them, if they somehow do manage to lose the first game, they can still probably come back. They can like analyze why they lost and just come back and play more solid, make less mistakes again, and just beat this team with macro essentially. When your team is better than the other team in macro, that's pretty much the biggest advantage you can have. You know, it doesn't really matter how the lanes come out. Like the majority of the game is played in the macro, and the majority of advantages are gained that way. So I think Team 1, as long as they just play solid, they don't try to do anything crazy, they don't overextend themselves, I think they'll be pretty solid. You know, I think it's this other team, Left League Gaming, that has to go for something crazy, has to try something out of the box in the hopes that it works and they catch the UF team, you know, not paying attention, you know, or some sleeping. They catch them sleeping.
Catch them sleeping. I like that term. All right. So we're going to close out that first matchup. We're going to go ahead and just jump right up to the second one. This is going to where I think things start to get really kind of interesting as we start kind of progressing down through everything. The second matchup of the day features the 4 and 5 seeds. It starts out with FSU Esports Gold coming all the way down from Tallahassee just for this tournament. Not quite sure their positions necessarily right now. I'm going to have that hopefully on the graphic here for you guys. But we have Sesimon, NK5722, Traveler157, Mega Blaziken, and Elu Avatar. I gave that the best freaking go at that I could. And on the other side of things, we have Eastside Legacy, who we're going to have Fire Signum, I Like to Kite, X-Trainee in the mid lane, Dyrude, and Louis. So I guess kind of starting out with everything, I played against this team in prelims personally, and X-Trainee, he seemed like kind of like a rock to the team, someone who wasn't gonna straight up just beat you in lane, but he wasn't gonna be someone that loses. How important is it to have somebody, especially in a carry position, that just won't lose lane? And then how detrimental would it be to have somebody that maybe doesn't quite go for all the aggressive plays and try to win lane in competitive games?
That guy plays mid, right?
Yes.
X-Trainee. I mean, yeah, that's huge. Like, losing mid lane is the easiest way to open up the rest of the map to lose as well, especially if you were talking about, like, losing that mid tower. That's pretty huge. So the fact that this guy's the highest ranked player on his team, and he gets to... I mean, mid lane has the most effect on the tempo of the game, really. And the fact that he gets to control the game in that way is probably the best for his team. I see them having a pretty good chance against this other team, again, that's just based off of ranks. I don't know who's the mid laner on the other team, on Mega Blaziken's team.
Traveler157.
Okay, Traveler
plays
157.
Zoe,
Yeah,
Talia,
this guy,
Oriana.
so I mean, he plays a lot of Zoe, right? But Zoe has been nerfed recently, right? And she's not seeing anywhere near as much play as she was before. And all of a sudden, if you're taking away this guy's most played champion, and he already has to deal with somebody who's probably significantly better than him, I can see this guy having trouble getting any advantages mid, and I can see essentially X-Trainee just getting to do what he wants in the game, and that's probably a big problem for that team, you know? I would think maybe that's... I don't know, when you play a team like this, maybe Wally, you can chime in on this, when you play a team that has like one player that stands out above the others, I don't know if it's the best idea to try to attack that player and make him uncomfortable and make it so that he can't have his biggest effect on the game, or if it's to focus some of the weaker players and hope that you can turn your own advantages gained from that into a win. You know, what do you think?
Well, I'd say in this specific matchup, we're looking at X-Trainee. He plays the Vel'Koz, he plays the Cork, he plays the Swain, he plays fairly safe champions. I don't think you're going to really get an advantage there unless you go with, like, I guess the aggressive Zoe pick, but Zoe's not that good anymore. You more so want to snowball the bot lane. Looks like what it's come on, I think, is their ADC. He's a pretty good Vayne player. Has some Kai'Sa games under his belt. Those hyperscaling ADCs, you want to get them ahead because, as you said, X-Trainee, he's not necessarily going to lose lane. So you want to try to instead make another lane lose so you can press that advantage around the map.
Actually, going back to that mid lane, I know that we'll always bring up mid lane, especially since we're in a meta where maybe necessarily mid lane isn't the most important lane to win or lose at the moment. But kind of falling back on what we said even in the last matchup, Traveler 157, he does have that Ori pick, and he has had a little bit of success at it, just kind of looking at his recent games on it. And as well as he even has a Talia, which has popped up back in the mid lane even just for a little bit. Even, sometimes Talia is still jungling, but, you can see her still in mid. So, is that still some picks that they can fall back on, or is that something where, where basically X-Trainee and his team, they can simply say, oh, we're going to ban these champions because this is what we're afraid of, or maybe it's, they're going to look towards other places? Like, what's kind of like the thought process behind something like that when you have that rank difference?
Well, I mean, I think that's a best case scenario for Traveler, right? Is he picks something that can just neutralize the mid lane, which is, I mean, you're saying that this guy's not very aggressive, so he's not going to try to just stomp the mid lane anyway. He picks something like the Ori, maybe not the Talia, because that you can neutralize mid lane and that you can just shove it in over and over again and just play like that, but you're going to want to make plays. If you're not making plays on Talia, you're kind of just wasting the pick. So if he does get something like the Orion, he can just neutralize the lane. Then if you look at the other lanes and you start matching them up together, now the differences in ranks are not that crazy, Now there are definitely opportunities for big swings to go either way here. So maybe that's the plan for them, right? Is just, look, don't get that behind mid lane. Maybe just try to keep it even, or maybe come out slightly behind, but as long as you don't die, as long as you don't take a lot of chip damage on your tower or anything like that, focus one of the other lanes, get them ahead. And then the fact that this guy does play those safe champions, X-Trainee, that he does play the Corki and he does play the Vel'Koz, that's great and all. But in the same way, just a regularly farmed Corki is not going to 1v9 a game. He needs a little bit more. He's going to need definitely his team to be in there. And if his team is behind, he's pretty easy to take down in team fights, He's a relatively short-range champion. The Vel'Koz is really skill shot reliant. If he's missing his skill shots, he's not going to have the biggest effect on the game. And the Swain I think the Swain is probably their best bet in terms of him getting out of the laning phase and just absolutely carrying team fights for his team in the case that they do come out behind in the other lanes. I would say that's probably the safest bet for them.
I think when my team played against Eastside Legacy, X-Trainee, I'm pretty sure he picked Swain mid into me. So is Swain the champion that you think that he could carry from in a game and just take over a game with?
Yeah, I do. Yeah, totally. I think he's like insane in team fights. And I think that's where this game will come to. Like, again, the rest of the lanes, this guy doesn't play aggressive. He's not going to stomp mid. The rest of the lanes look relatively equal. And on game day, we know that everybody plays a little bit safer. So I think that most games are going to come to macro and team fighting. And I think that Swain is the best champion that this guy plays for carrying the game once it reaches that point. I think it's the ideal pick for him.
All right, so with all that in mind, I want to hear your guys' predictions. Who do you think wins this matchup? FSU, Esports Gold, or Eastside Legacy? Start with you, Wally.
I think Eastside's going to come out with this one. It's probably going to be a 2-1, but I think that the mid difference is just going to be too much. I saw Trainee play in prelims, and he's, like you're saying, he's that rock that the team plays around, and he's not going to fall behind, especially against a mid laner who doesn't seem to have that aggressive of a champion pool.
Fat Booty?
I think the safe bet is obviously to go with Eastside Legacy, but I think if FSU Gold plays their cards right and maybe they throw a lot of bans at X-Trainee and they just get him on something that he's not super comfortable on, because he doesn't have a lot of games on any of these champs that we're talking about. If you take away his Vel'Koz, take away the Swain, put him on Corki, which he doesn't have a great win rate on, and then after that you don't even see any more mid laners in his top 10 played champions, right? So anything with more than 5 games, literally. I think if they throw bans at him, they can kind of like level the playing field, and they actually have a solid chance. So I'll go with something simple, I'll go with 55-45 to FSU Gold. To Eastside Legacy.
Eastside Legacy. Okay. Just guessing because they're FSU Gold, do you think that maybe they have a little bit more team synergy too, and that could even sway the matchup a little bit?
Well, maybe I don't know anything about these teams in terms of how long they've been playing together, how often they practice and stuff like that.
Hmm.
So that's potentially possible, right? The fact that they're a schools team, so they probably have a little bit more organization than some of these ragtag teams put together. Not saying that Eastside Legacy is that, but they might be. Um, that could play a factor, and that again, I think the game will get to I think all of these games are going to get to a point where macro and team fighting are going to get the chance to shine. I don't think a lot of these games are going to be over in laning phase. I think that they're definitely anybody who plays that way is definitely going to have their opportunity to leave their mark on the game.
All right. I love close matches. I know we will too. We will see that on Saturday. That'll be definitely a good matchup to look forward to. We're going to go ahead and go to the third matchup. It'll be the second seed versus the seventh seed on the second half of the bracket. We're going to start off with Fat Booty. It's going to be your team, the Foreskin Gang. Starting off for you guys, it's going to be Fat Booty. That's you up in the top lane, just in case you didn't know. Salamander Man is going to be in that jungle. Skippy, it's the birthday boy, playing in the mid lane. E-Honey's going to be 80 carry. And Lolursa coming out of retirement, going to be on support. And they're going to be going up against Team Squishy. Ant King 532 will be the top lane. I win for my fans jungling. Dario Naharis playing the mid lane. And Guardian of Hope and Tails to Kate are going to be that duo bot. Wally, why don't you just kind of take me through stream of consciousness through these two teams?
Well, so playing, we've scrimmed against Foreskin Gang, and they're a really solid team. The one weakness that they do have is that I feel like the bot lane has lost some of their synergy over the years. As you said, Ian's basically, or Lolursa has been not playing League as much, but he's been getting back into it. They've been practicing, and we've seen them improve a lot throughout the scrims, but maybe that synergy isn't what it needs to be by the time game time shows up. Other than that, you have Skippy, who's solid in the mid lane, but again, not going to really win any lanes. He can not, what am I trying to say? He cannot lose a lane, but he's not going to really be dominating any lanes at this tournament. Salamander Man's a really solid jungler. You see him, he plays a lot of Zac Sejuani. He has those really tanky picks, and then you have Fat Booty in the top lane, who, if you look at his OP.GG, may look like a Riven one trick, but I promise you, he's not. He plays Jax really well. He plays Camila really well. Just a well-rounded player on those kind of bruisers.
My kind of question here is that we were talking about the past few matchups where we have this big mid differential, but now it seems like kind of between these two teams, the mid lane isn't like it's neither the star matchup nor are they like the best players on the team. Dario Naharis, I personally played against mid lane in prelims. I don't think he's a straight mid lane player. Echo is his most played mid lane. He did play that against me. And we'll say that he doesn't seem like he'll take over the game too much. Like if he gets fed, it's like a not big deal thing, even though he'll play something like the Echo. So now if we kind of take everything away from mid lane, where does each team kind of go to win this game?
So I'm kind of curious about something that's not necessarily related to these two teams, but both of you guys as mid laners, I just kind of want to know this. What kind of spot is Echo in right now? Is he good? Is he bad? Like, I know he was popular for a while, especially in solo queue, but I can't say that I've seen too much of him lately. What do you guys think?
I think right now he's A tier. I wouldn't classify him as S tier, but especially with control mages kind of coming back into the meta, Echo really beats those mages. He's kind of annoying to play against, but we also know that Echo is Skippy's most played champion as well, so that may be a contested pick.
It may be contested. It might even be, a champion that gets permanently banned on whoever's blue side for whatever game, like first pick it, red side always has to ban it or something like that. My personal feeling as far as the Echo pick, I know I'm not as high of an elo and not nearly as knowledgeable as someone like Wally or you are, but I put Echo personally on a B tier simply for the fact that I feel like there's other champions like the Akali, like the Irelia that can do what Echo does but better. Irelia is super insanely tanky and can still put out just the same amount of damage and I think impact the team fight more than something like an Echo can. And Akali on the other side of things, maybe super squishy, doesn't have an ult to kind of reset your health bar or jump out of a fight, but has just an infinite amount of dashes. I feel like those champions just can do what Echo does just a little bit safer. So maybe in a competitive point of view, I don't think he's as good, but if you consider the fact that, he's an assassin and you have these control mages coming back, he'll still be a good pick regardless.
Yeah, I don't know if that is going to end up being a contested pick in the mid lane or if it's just going to be something that's banned out every game. I guess we'll have to see. But they do have a little bit of an elo advantage in the mid lane. Who is their bot lane? Do you guys know?
Uh,
Yeah, their bot lane is Tales of Kate is support, and Guardian of Hope looks like the ADC.
yes, that is
Guardian of Hope.
exactly right.
Okay. So interestingly enough, there's like a little bit uh reversal of roles there in that I would say we have the elo advantage in that lane. And I know that, you know, it can be hard to create your own advantages in bot lane because it's so centered around where the jungler feels like pressuring, you know? If you are the stronger bot lane but their jungler is always around bot, you can't realistically expect to create your own advantage without dying to a couple of ganks. So it's going to be a lot about where the teams decide to play through, but I do see us winning bot relatively handily. I will agree with Wally that I think our bot lane has been improving as time has gone on against some of these people like Ian have only just started playing again very, very recently, but used to be good players before, you know? So they're slowly picking up some of their old skills, some of their old tricks, some of the stuff that the way they used to play the game, right? With the confidence and with the ability to read dodges and hit skill shots and stuff like that. I think that kind of stuff is slowly coming back. So I can see my bot lane winning that. Who's their jungler?
Their junglers, I win for my fans.
Okay, that's what I thought. Yeah, this guy plays a lot of League of Legends, right? He has 1,100 games this season, right? But he's still in Diamond. He's got a positive win rate, right? So, but his most played champ is Udyr, you know, and that's like a weird one. Now his every single champ after that is a totally viable jungler. We've got Graves, who's super strong right now. We might have to ban that, to be real with you. Xin Zhao, definitely in a good spot, and Jarvan is always good at focusing. Jax is a problem if he ever gets ahead, period. But this Udyr pick, I don't know, you know? I'm looking at it now and I'm trying to think, is this something that I mean, this guy's got 461 games on it. It's a ton of games in one season on one champion. Um, is this something that we let through and see if he can carry a game on it, or is it something that we respectfully ban? You know, I don't know yet because usually Udyr is not the best jungler competitively, right?
Yeah, I would say that.
So I don't know.
Flash bear
That's
slap
an
though.
interesting.
Flash bear
That's
slap.
a yeah. That's an interesting. That guy's got an interesting champion pool just because of that. I'm curious as to how much priority they themselves are going to put on this Udyr pick, or if they're just going to say no, we don't want to play Udyr. We're just going to go for Graves and Zhao, Jarvan, Jax every single game. Um, and then that leaves their top laner to be Guardian. No, Ant King.
Yes.
And this guy plays Garen. He's got a lot of Garen, 155 games played. We all know that Garen is like the highest win rate champ in the game right now, or something like that. But and I personally don't really play Garen. He's probably not that difficult to play. If I felt like it was necessary to pick him up, I probably could. But I think maybe this is something else that you just throw a respect ban at, you know? Just because not only are you banning one of his strongest champs, but the number of games played in between this Garen and every single champ after it, there's like a huge drop off. You know, it goes from 155 on Garen to 22 on Tryndamere and 16 on Yorick, and those are way more difficult champs to execute and play correctly um, in terms of like the macro game. So I think that's something that we probably just ban and we just don't let him have it because we're just taking unnecessary risk if we do. You know, we're giving them the chance to win a game that we shouldn't. But this definitely looks like an interesting matchup. Their mid laner looks solid to say the least, especially if he gets his echo. He looks pretty good. And their jungler, I mean, I don't see him getting stomped, right? He plays
Yeah.
a shit ton. He plays a lot of different. Mainly a jungle player almost entirely, and um, he has to understand the jungle role well enough to not get stomped, right?
Yeah.
He's got to be a solid player, I would think. So I think this is again another game where I don't see these lanes getting stomped. I don't see these lanes getting stomped unless this guy really can't play anything as well as he plays at Garen. Then maybe I can stomp him. But outside of that, I think this goes to macro and team fights again. I think this is a relatively close series.
Out of personal experience, having played this team, just as advice to them, just from our game, because we took them to 40 minutes when we played against them. They had an Echo mid. Ant King, I think we banned his Garen respectfully because, like you said, that's just not a champion that anyone wants to play against. And I went for my fans. I'm pretty sure we banned Graves. Actually, we were confident about letting him play Udyr. He didn't pick it first rotation, so then we banned Udyr second rotation to throw the respect ban at him there, but he picked the Jax. And a big thing that this team likes to do is that I win for my fans will gank very well. He will gank from these weird angles and really catch you at a weird time. Maybe like where maybe the lane isn't set up the way that you would think it would be to get a gank. Like if you kind of just overreach getting a minion and then bam, the gank happens. It's not necessarily ever like that. It's like slightly off position, and this guy will just show up and give you that gank on something like the Jackson. He will create his own lead. My only issue was that when I played against them was Dario Naharis, he got a lead on this Echo. And King, he didn't win, he didn't lose top lane, but both of them, like, they didn't create anything out of the lead, or they didn't have a huge impact in the game like you would think like a 3-0 Echo would. So either they have to figure out, I think, a way that they need to let Dario Naharis, if he gets on this Echo, he needs to figure out a way where he can impact the game himself, or they need to figure out a way to say, hey, we're going to have to stall this out till late and wait for Guardian of Hope to really scale up on something like a Jinx or a Kai'Sa hyper carry pick.
Do we know, either of you guys, what else this guy plays if he doesn't get his Echo? Because in his top 10 played, I can't see any other viable mid laner.
I'm not sure. We did not ban his Echo. We just let it through because my plan was to just pick Irelia into it, because that's a matchup I feel pretty comfortable with, although it didn't quite go the way I expected it to. I'm not sure, though, what he goes down to, because like I said, he picked the Echo. So yeah, okay. That will just have to be a surprise, I guess, for the series.
Yeah, that'll be interesting.
All right, so I want to hear predictions out of a best of 3. What's going to happen, Wally?
Oh, I'm sorry, I just had my mic deafened. Can you repeat the question?
So in a best of 3 between these two teams, everything that's said, what do you think happens? Like, what's the end result going to be?
I think Foreskin Gang is going to come out on top. They have too much experience playing together, even though they may not be as good as they used to be. They still have just played together too long, and I can't see them being overcome in this first round.
I'm also relatively confident in my own team. I think I would give it something like 60-40 to us, right? I don't think I mean, I guess if I had to give like a series score, I would say 2-0, but 2 solid games, not 2 stomps.
Two like 35 to 40 minute games, just solid games, going to late game team fights.
Yeah, maybe something like that, yeah.
And that's actually something that's pretty important, for some of these lower seeded teams, or maybe who are out elo'd the entire way. Just for everyone in general, is that a solid strategy? Even where it's like, instead of picking comfort, you just pick solid team fight and you say, hey, let's not get more than 5K behind in an early game and try to win a late game team fight to win a game. Like, is that a solid strategy, do you guys think, for approaching a tournament?
I totally think it is, especially because of when we think of where the meta is right now, right? It's kind of like you see a lot of these 3 tank compositions in top jungle and support, and I think you can just kind of form that meaty death ball that is relatively viable, even if you are kind of behind, just because you can fight these front to back team fights and hope that you have like a hyper carry who scales or who does something crazy, and you just win one of these late game team fights. You get a Baron, you get an Elder Dragon, and all of a sudden, despite being behind the whole game, you've now got a chance to win. I do think it's a solid strategy for them, definitely.
I think also adding on to that, the difference between a gold and a diamond player, it's not so much mechanics as it is macro and knowing what to do around the map. When you create like this death ball 5-man team fight comp, that's the easiest comp that you can execute in League. It's basically just, hey, we're going to ARAM mid and we're going to outpower you and win the game that way. So you can make up for that difference in ELO by just picking an easier to execute comp, in my opinion.
Yeah, I agree with that.
All right. So with that, let's move on to our final matchup, which is going to feature the 3 versus 6 seed. We have EZ Clap taking on LNP Gaming, returning from last GatorLAN. For EZ Gaming, we have, let's see if I can't get us in order real quick, Joystick Truck up there in the top lane. Heimerdoodles will be in the jungle. Puffles MIA is the mid laner. And the bot lane is going to be Luda, and Laura is nuts. For LNP Gaming, we have, oh god, I should remember even them. Captain Ego is going to be the top laner. Mugumbo. We're going to say Mugumbo. He's going to be the jungler. Boster is the mid laner. LNP Moose is the AD carry, and Willie Melson is the support. I have also played against LNP. I'm going to kind of reserve those for kind of later. I'm kind of really interested in hearing what you guys have to think about Easy Clap, given that some of these roles maybe are a little bit different than we might expect just looking at these players' champ pools.
Yeah. I mean, so their top laner is definitely a top lane player. He plays a ton of Ornn. If I was LNP, I would definitely be looking to give that a ban because in my bruiser only, I refuse to play tank's opinion. Ornn is just a cop-out champ for a bad player to be useful, you know? I think anybody who's playing Ornn is just not confident in their own skill to affect the game on any other champion, even other tanks, right? Even something like a Shen, like a Sion. I think those are all harder to play, all significantly less forgiving. So I think if I was LNP, I would just throw this a ban. Make the guy play something else. Make him execute on Urgot. Make him hit ults on Sion and knockups. Make him play Camille. Make him see if he can carry, you know? Something like that. I would definitely throw that a ban. But the thing is, man, we see some big elo differences in here, right? I mean, we got like the other team doesn't have any diamonds, if I'm not wrong. Yeah, LNP has low plat players and a silver and a gold, obviously. And these guys have 2 D4s, right? So they've gotten out of D5
And a
hell,
D2.
which makes you significantly better than a D5 player. And then they've got a D2. And that D2 guy is just, and he's the jungle too, right? So again, we've got another high elo player in a role where he's not only directly outclassing his opponent, but he's in a position to really affect the tempo of the game and really control the game however he wants it. If he wants it to be fast, if he wants it to be a stomp, if he wants to scale safely and then play macro better. So, you know, I think it's going to be really hard for LMP to overcome. In some ways, I think that this might be the most one-sided matchup we're seeing here.
Well, I'm kind of interested to hear what you think about these two teams in general.
So I watched LNP playing during the prelims, and I was impressed by I think it's pronounced Boaster, by his mid lane. I think he played Irelia
Yeah.
in the game against you guys.
Yeah.
But going against Puffles, who in my opinion is probably going to be the best mid laner at this tournament, I just think the skill discrepancy there, especially when you include the fact that the jungler is 3 whole leagues above, like Heimerdoodles is 3 whole leagues above the LNP jungler. I think that mid jungle synergy is just going to be too much to handle. I think bot and top, as long as they just don't turbo int, mid and jungle will be able to carry for easy clap.
So
I agree with that. And I mean, so if you're LNP, right, and you're looking for some kind of weakness, you're probably not looking at mid. You're probably not looking at jungle. Maybe you can look at top though, right? Again, you ban this guy's Ornn. You either camp him or you give your, or you just hope that your top laner comes out ahead enough to fight team fights well if you're going to give your top laner a tank. And otherwise, the only thing I can say is their AD is Luda, right? And this guy is solely a support player. Again, he's got no ADs anywhere in his top 10. So that means he hasn't played any AD this season for more than 10 games. So even though he is a D4 player, realistically, I would probably say maybe this guy plays AD at like a Plat 1, Plat 2 level, you know? So maybe we can bring that down a little bit. And then you've got Laura, who's a gold 4, and I think that pairing right there has got to be the biggest weakness that this team has. And if I'm LNP, that's where I'm looking to attack 100%, right?
But what do you think Mugumbo would play as a jungler? Say you just do a simple play of, okay, jungler can't bottom. What does he play though to do that? Like, are you confident maybe in ranking and saying, hey, pick Lee Sin if he's one of your more play champions and try to do that, or do you think you go to other picks?
I mean, I don't know, right? Because this guy's like, no offense, but he's silver 3. I don't know if you want to give him a difficult to execute champion like Lee Sin, but he's got other stuff that seems perfectly fine. I don't see why he can't like carry out a really well planned camp with Gragas. I don't see why he wouldn't be able to do it with Skarner, with Predator, just flash ult the AD carry or the support every time it's up. So I don't think you give him Lee Sin. I think it's, I mean, maybe that's the risk that you need to take if you're trying to overcome these elo differences, is you just give everybody their best champ and hope you guys outplay in some crazy way. Because like Wally said earlier, the biggest differences in these ranks actually doesn't have much to do with mechanics. It has more to do with macro and the understanding of the game and how to turn your advantages into a win. So maybe you just hope that everybody plays their best and you outplay these higher ranked players. But regardless, I think personally, if I was helping them with their pick ban, I would throw some bans at the enemy top lane. I would get the jungle mid off of their 2 best champs, just because we don't want to get completely smashed by those 2. And then I would just pick a bot lane that can be safe but be aggressive, maybe something like a Varus and a Thresh or a Tom Kench, something like that. And then we would pick the Gragas or the Skarner, and we would just hard camp bot. Like, we wouldn't let those guys breathe, not even for a second. And we would tell the rest of the lanes, look, just stay safe. Just farm under your tower, right? Only extend if you have wards, only extend if we've told you that the jungler is bot side or something like that. I think that's the best strategy for them.
Now LMP actually got second place out of the 6 prelim teams, despite like everyone's saying they don't have a diamond player, they don't have the highest elo players. We saw a lot of the other teams actually have higher ranking players than them, yet they got second place. So is there something where a makeshift team like Easy Clap just kind of thrown together a bunch of solo queue players, sure they're higher elo, they have that more game knowledge, can execute, but if you pick something like a team fighting comp, or you pick something where you can play safe and not necessarily just get snowballed out of the early game, just lose the game that way, that you can just win off of good team synergy.
I would think that that's like a utopian kind of thought, right? Like this world where this team is actually good enough as a unit to beat these other players. But I think realistically, as a person who, when he started playing the game, definitely wasn't diamond and am diamond now and have been both high and low diamond for a while, I would think that honestly, some amalgamation of these different rated diamond players and a couple golds probably has better understanding of the game than and like ability to play together than these lower ranked players, even if they have good synergy and stuff. I honestly think that rank makes that big of a difference, that they can have all the synergy in the world, but I still think that just understanding the game at that much higher of a level just gives you still an advantage in the macro and stuff, realistically.
I think that makes sense to me. So what's your prediction, do you think, for this game? Do you think it's just 2-0 goes to Easy Clap?
Yeah, I gotta think 2-0 to Easy Clap. I've said that last one might be the most one-sided matchup we've seen. I think it's this one now, for sure. Or I think I
Wally.
said this one, I don't remember.
Yeah, I have to agree. I can't see this being anything other than a 2-0. Maybe if they get a really good early game, LMP can pull out a game, but I just think that the experience that the Diamond players have is just going to be too much to overcome.
All right. So with that, we have analyzed every single team, broken down all their different picks, what each player can possibly do, each individual matchup for each quarterfinal matchup. But that doesn't mean that semifinals and finals can't happen. We're not going to individually kind of go through those just because we don't know what's going to happen, and we're not going to go through every iteration of that. But I am curious to know which team takes the crown. Wally, we'll start with you.
Hold on, Why do you got to start with me? Start with Josh.
All right, Josh.
Well, I'll give like a couple of answers. I think that default, I want to give it to UF Team 1, right? They've been playing together for a while. They practice consistently. They have solid players in every role. Like I think they're the most solid team throughout the entire roster. But I don't know how good this Easy Clap team is going to be. I think that is if Easy Clap manages to beat us handily in semifinals, maybe I give them a chance. And if we somehow manage to beat Easy Clap handily in semifinals, if semifinals on our side of the bracket is anything but a close series, maybe I give that team the edge, right? Because I think that those are both good teams, my team and this Easy Clap team. And if either team is playing well enough on that day to smash the other in a 2-0 that isn't really that close, maybe they do have a chance going into more than a chance going into the finals. Maybe they even have, maybe they're even the favorites.
All right, Wally, what do you think?
All right. I actually think that probably Foreskin Gang has a really good chance to win this tournament. I mean, as I said, they've been playing together. They've been playing together even longer than we have on the UF team, and they're all really decent players. Scrimming against them, they are seeming to really get their synergy together, and maybe after their warm-up series in the quarterfinals, and if, as Josh said, if they do beat Easy Clap handily, then they'll have that confidence going into finals, and anything can happen. Our scrim game's been fairly close, so it's a toss-up.
They've
if
been
that's
close,
the finals.
but UF Team 1 has definitely the better win-loss, 100% by far. So, again, I think a lot of this is going to come up to who shows up on the day of. Maybe some people got problems with nerves. Maybe other people play better on game day, right? Maybe they don't crack under the pressure. Maybe they grow. under the spotlight. So I think it's about the day of, you know. And something that I just thought of is I think Wally's side of the bracket, UF Team's one side of the bracket, is maybe the easier side of the bracket, right? Just because they don't have Easy Clap on that side. And maybe that helps them. Maybe they just stomp their bunch of their games. Their macros super clean through all the games. They come into finals mega confident, and they just repeat what they did in the earlier 2 rounds. Or maybe not being tested hurts them. You know, maybe on the day of they're a little bit more lax, or they don't know how to play from behind in in a crucial game in a best of 3 or best of 5. Is finals best of 5, by the way? Or is it best of 3?
Best of 3. Every game's best of 3.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think they have the weaker side of the bracket. I'm just not entirely sure if that's going to help them or hurt them.
I think that's a fairly good answer. And if you even ask me for you guys for Forskin Gang, you know, you have eHoney as your AD carry, and he's very well known, at least for being a good coaching figure between the UF teams for the past year or so, and just helping out other players and teams like that. So that could even be something where, you know, say they drop a game, he figures out a way to come back game 2 or in game 3 and close out a series. So that to me also kind of proves that there might be some really good matchups. Just personally, I think that 2-3 matchup will be the most exciting, just for the fact that of the finals, no matter what, will be an exciting matchup. But I just think that it's very interesting because comparing a team like Forskin Gang to Easy Clap, you would think that Forskin Gang, knowing them, they've played for a long time, are really, really good and are very synergistic, very close unit of people. But Easy Clap have those massive rank differences, and if this is a team that shows up, I think it might be a very intriguing 3-game series in the semifinals leading into the finals. And I think no matter what UF Team won, they'll make those finals, and I think no matter what, it's going to be really good, really close GatorLAN.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think that looking at these teams, this is actually ever since I've been going to GatorLANs and playing in them, I think that this is the best matched GatorLAN I've ever seen.
Yeah.
Right. I have to agree with that. If you look at past GatorLANs, there was normally like one team that you like beforehand, you knew, okay, these guys are going to win. They have 2 master players. but this, I would say at this lane, there's 3 teams, at least in my initial look, 3 teams that realistically have a good chance at winning it all.
I agree. It's interesting. I'm actually excited now. I'm glad that I got to really look at teams like this because it's got me hyped. It's actually got me hyped.
Yeah, so, you know, that's going to wrap it up for us. This was the pre-show. We broke down every single team, like I said, gave you guys a good kind of look at what each individual team can do and what each individual in those teams can do. We're going to be live from the Rian Ballroom Saturday, September 22nd. The tournament's going to start at 11 a.m. We will have an outside streaming service. I will have that linked below right here. It's literally right here. Yeah, you'll see it right on screen. There's like a little box kind of go over right here. Yeah, you'll see it. It's going to be beautiful. You're going to know exactly what I'm talking about. YouTube will see it too on the day of. It's going to be awesome. That box is still there. Holy crap. But yeah, September 22nd, 11 a.m., Rian Ballroom. If you don't tune in to the streaming service, come out live. I'm going to be there taking pictures, videos. I'm going to be making a montage, including IRL shots of the event. I would love to see all you guys there. I know these guys would love to see you guys there, and we want to see everyone cheering for everybody there. It's going to be a grand old time, and I'm personally also excited. Big thank you to GeneralWally and Fat Booty for joining me on this adventure. Do you guys have any last words?
Yeah, good luck to everybody at GatorLAN, man.
Wally, you got anything?
No, just the same thing. Good luck. It's going to be a fun tournament.
All right, guys, and with that, thank you so much for watching. Be sure to leave a like if you enjoyed this content, if you want to see it again in the future, and be sure to subscribe. I'm trying to make this more of a community-driven resource, and I want to get more people involved. So thank you so much for watching, guys, and have a great night. I'll see you on Saturday.
See you guys.
See ya.